Welcome to episode 359, where I'm speaking with Jillian Lavender and Michael Miller about Vedic meditation. And they share the science and success behind this ancient technique. We also discuss Jillian's book, Why Meditate? Because It Works, and lots more. So please stay tuned. Hi there, I'm your host Colette, and on this podcast I will be sharing the teachings of Ayurveda, yoga, and holistic health practices. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend checking out the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. Thanks for listening, and now here's a new episode. Before we start into today's episode, I want to let you know about the next discounted group, Digestive Reset Cleanse, which is starting October 4th. This cleanse comes with a 90-minute online consultation with me so that I can tailor the recipes, the self-care, and mindfulness practices to you and your lifestyle for an individualized cleanse, which is going to help you to eliminate any accumulation of toxins, which are stored in the fat cells, eliminate any accumulation of the doshas at the end of the season, and prevent any imbalances in the coming season. It will help you to improve your digestion and elimination and maintain a healthy body weight for your constitution. It will help you to calm your nervous system, improve mental clarity and awareness, nourish your body, improve sleep, and restore and rejuvenate your energy. To find out more, just click on the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. For this October 4th group discounted cleanse, go to the events page. If that date doesn't work for you, you could choose a private cleanse. Just check that out under the programs page. And I hope to connect with you soon. Hello and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. Today, I'm very happy to welcome Jillian Lavender and Michael Miller, who are renowned Vedic meditation teachers and co-founders of the London Meditation Center and New York Meditation Center. While on their individual meditation journeys, they crossed paths in 2005 at a retreat in India. Jillian and Michael soon became partners in life and business, teaching people about the transformative power of meditation to connect with their truest selves, healthier lives, and inner peace. They have been practicing meditation for 30 plus years and have taught thousands of people around the globe. Jillian and Michael, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi, Colette. We're so pleased to be here.
Well, I'm looking forward to this conversation. And as we were just chit-chatting before we hit record, the link, of course, between Ayurveda and Vedic meditation coming from the Vedic wisdom. And so really interesting conversation I'm sure we're going to have. But I want to start by what I just mentioned in your bio, your own personal story, because that sounds very interesting. I'd love for you to share with us a little bit about your life before meeting in 2005 in India and then the journey since.
Well, I started meditating 27 years ago, I think. And that happened when I was living in Australia. I was living in Sydney. I'm originally from New Zealand. And I came to meditation knowing nothing about it. And, we're going back in time to a time when meditation was still regarded as a bit fringy, a bit kind of, it wasn't nearly as mainstream as what it is today. We didn't have apps. We didn't have the whole mindfulness buzz. Nothing like that. So I really didn't know much about meditation. I had a few preconceived ideas about what I thought it was about. But I found out about meditation through a friend of mine. Actually, it was his father, who was somebody that I really admired, somebody that I knew very well, who had been suffering with insomnia for most of his life. And upon retirement, it really didn't resolve itself. It kind of got worse, actually. And he tried all sorts of things and nothing had worked sustainably. And then he learned Vedic meditation and he started sleeping. And this was a big deal. And I was tired. I always felt tired. I felt, even after a good night's sleep, I'd wake up And I just sort of drag myself out of bed, and I'd take that dip in the afternoon where I'd be propping myself up with some sugar or some caffeine, and it just wasn't working. And so I was interested, and I was interested because he didn't strike me as somebody who I thought would be meditating, very successful in his business career, and just not what I kind of imagined. And so I thought, I want to find out more about this. And that's when I went along to a talk by my soon-to-be meditation teacher. And I was impressed. I was impressed by how much science there was behind this ancient technique, how easy it seemed, how normal everybody in the room seemed. They seemed like me, busy people. I was working in business. I was setting up a publishing company. I was just living a normal life. And so I jumped in and I took the course, and I started to notice changes very, very quickly. And that also was really reinforcing for me how significant this was. I was waking up before my alarm clock. I was not feeling anywhere near as anxious as I had been before. Sort of settling down and feeling more grounded and calmer. I was way more productive. I had a much better sense of what my priorities were. And I just continued practicing this technique. And then I moved to Paris and then to London, and that's where we're based today. And a time came when I decided, I want to leave this corporate thing for a bit. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. And that's when I reconnected with my meditation teacher, who's an American. And I went and spent nearly a year and a half with him training to be a Vedic meditation teacher. And I came back to London in 2003 and have been teaching since then. And we became full-time teachers, in 2008 when we started. So yeah, that's how I came to the knowledge.
Great story. Thank you for sharing. And Michael, I'd love to hear your journey.
It's a bit more twisty turny in that I encountered meditation for the first time. I mean, I did my first sun salutation in 1987 when I was at university, before anybody knew what a sun salutation was, except maybe your funny Uncle Bill who lived in his Volkswagen bus. And I had an acting professor actually who was a bit of an old hippie. He had meditated a lot in the 70s, and he thought it was great. He was sort of a grizzled old man of the age of 40. And but he had a bit of a gray beard, and there was this sense that he was tapped into something. He knew something was going on, and talked so highly about meditation, and gave us some time at the beginning of class one day to give it a try. Did not really give us instruction other than he kind of said, maybe you want to stare at something that can help control your mind. I had a tennis ball in my bag, and I sat cross-legged on the floor in this acting studio, and I cupped that ball in my hands, and it felt kind of meditative, like just on the floor cross-legged. And then I stared furiously at the seams of the tennis ball for what then felt like the longest 10 minutes of my university career. My mind was really all over the place. But there was something, I could taste that there was something to it. There was some sense of, I'm not quite getting there, but there is a there. And so I went chasing after that and spent better than a decade doing different types of meditation. I did end up doing a lot of yoga. I was into martial arts for a while. I did body work and energy work and all kinds of fascinating things, none of which really stuck for an extended period. All interesting along the way. I then kind of let it all go. You can hear I'm American. I grew up in the Midwest, and I moved then to the West Coast. I went to graduate school in Seattle, and I started a business career in entertainment. I ended up in Los Angeles, and really the whole meditation thing and all of that had fallen away. But then a friend of mine learned this technique that we now teach, Vedic meditation, and I saw such a change in her. She got calm, she got clear, she made some big life decisions that she'd been putting off. And she was attributing all of this to having really meditated only a few weeks. And I thought something is happening. And so I went to hear a talk that her teacher was offering, and I really liked it. I think quite similar to Jillian. I appreciated the science, the fact that it was not all ooby gooby. For where I was in my life, that was meaningful. And the teacher was normal, just someone who spoke well and had a clarity of thought. And again, said it's meditation that has done this for me over the years. And I thought, well, okay, I'll give it a try. I've tried this stuff before. It didn't really work, but I'm interested. My corporate career was really full on. I needed something to shift what was becoming unsustainable. And I jumped in, and right away it was different. I was meditating 20 minutes twice a day from the first day of class. And I just never looked back. I was feeling better. I was sleeping better. I was getting more done. My thinking was clearer. Sort of the background buzz of anxiety was falling away, to the point that I was even feeling kind of balanced and confident, which was a new experience for me. And I got on with it. I meditated for about a year, and then I started a teacher training program that took in total about 2 years, really culminating with 3.5 months full-time in residence training, first in India and then in the mountains of northern Arizona where my teacher was. And I've been teaching full-time since then. So we both started teaching full-time in London and in New York in 2008.
Okay.
And there's no shortage of stressed out people in these two cities.
Yes, absolutely. I can imagine. And both of you, it sounds like, started feeling the benefits straight away. Like you both got into the practice and immediately started feeling the benefits. You both mentioned being more productive and calmer, better sleep. And Jillian, you wrote a book called Why Meditate Because It Works, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that was to inspire people to begin their meditation journey. And I'd love for you to share with us the benefits of a meditation practice, some of which we've already heard from you both. But as well, you talked about how you both appreciated the science behind this ancient technique of Vedic meditation and what's happening in the body and mind when we meditate. That's a loaded question, I know. But if you could share with us, particularly interested in the science behind this ancient technique.
Yes, and I think the thing that is so fundamental and what differentiates this technique from any other technique that's available is the impact that it's having on the nervous system, and that impact is being experienced immediately. And fundamentally what's happening with this technique is that we sit down and we close the eyes and we think a sound, and the sound we refer to as a mantra. And the mantra is a vibration, and it's chosen for you by the teacher. So that's our job. And that sound is a vehicle for the mind. That's literally what mantra means. It's a mind vehicle. So the technique starts with the mind and then very quickly impacts what's happening in the physiology. So the mantra becomes fainter and softer, and that draws the mind into more subtle layers. As a consequence of that, the nervous system gets into a state that is of deep, deep rest, a hypo, meaning low metabolic state, within a few minutes. And this is where the research is very compelling, because what we see in that 20-minute sitting of meditation, and that's how we practice the technique. We meditate for 20 minutes in the morning, and then we meditate for 20 minutes in the late afternoon, early evening. In that 20 minutes, the practitioner is experiencing a level of rest which is unprecedented. And we measure that in a number of different ways. We can look at the slowing down of the heart rate. We can look at changes in the biochemistry of the body. The body's moving away from a hyperexcitatory state. So cortisol levels are dropping, norepinephrine, all of these things that are being produced by the adrenals, that's all shutting down. And the body's starting to activate an endogenous cocktail of bliss chemistry. So dopamine levels are normalizing, serotonin is going up, and the body is resting unlike it's rested before. And when your body rests, it does all sorts of very important things. It comes back into balance. It heals. it restructures and re-engineers. And ultimately what it's doing is it's purifying. It's purifying out fatigue, it's purifying out toxins, and it's purifying out the legacy of stress. And so after a 20-minute sitting of meditation, having had that level of profound rest, we come out without all of that tension and stress in the system. We come out more balanced. We're lighter. We've lost that fatigue. And so we come out and we're more energized and we're more grounded and we're calmer. And we have fundamentally changed the psychophysiology, because not only is Vedic meditation giving us that profound rest physiologically, what it's also doing is it's changing the brain functioning. So what we can see in a practitioner of Vedic meditation is a very particular brain signature. And that brain signature is one of coherence, and that is holistic. That is from the back brain through to the front brain, really activating that prefrontal cortex. That's the CEO of the brain. So that's really important when it comes to making good decisions. So we see the opposite, of course, when somebody's tired and stressed. We see that that front part of the brain, that executive processing center, goes offline. But in Vedic meditation, it's active and very, very coherent. And we see a lot of coherence between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain. So that's that integration, but that really brings about that uplift in creativity and those insights and those good ideas. So an optimized brain signature. And the thing that we know about our brains is that they are incredibly adaptable and malleable. What you do with your brain changes it. And whether that be learning a new instrument or, learning another language or whatever you're doing, you're asking those interneuronal connections to form. And this is what meditation is doing. That optimized brain signature that you experience in that meditation setting starts to become more and more stable and more of the new normal outside of meditation over time. So there's a longitudinal effect here. So the nervous system is rested, and that takes the pressure off sleep. As I was saying earlier about how this person that inspired me to learn to meditate was having a lot of difficulty with sleep. And we see that in our work. People are tired. And the thing is that, when you get tired, the thing that you need, which is good rest, becomes even more elusive. So we have this epidemic of exhaustion, there's poor sleep. And meditation really interrupts that because it takes the load off sleep. So we have energy, we have good rest. The nervous system isn't acidic. Hasn't got all of that stress chemistry coursing through the body. So that's changing things. And that is all having a direct impact in terms of the rate at which the body is breaking down and aging. So when we look at studies on aging, we'll see significant changes in terms of the rate of biological aging in a meditator compared with a matched control group. Studies of meditators who've been meditating for about 5 years or more were shown to have a biological age which was up to 12 years less than the matched control group. So, that's an important part of this. But this optimization of brain functioning is delivering so many benefits in terms of our mental potential. So we see the knock-on effect in terms of improved memory and concentration, learning ability. So really, there's no aspect of the psychophysiology that's not being enhanced and optimized through this profound rest.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. That was a great explanation. And you're really using this vehicle of mantra to get to that state. And so, Michael, could this be considered, Ayurveda has this whole side of sound medicine, because mantra is a vibrational practice. You're causing a vibration throughout the body. And so there is an aspect of mantra which is considered sound medicine, right?
Of course, yes, absolutely. And we know from physics that everything is vibration. If we get down to the quantum level, everything is a vibration of energy and intelligence coming out of the field. We use the mantra not in the sense of chanting, but we use it at the level of consciousness, because the sense of hearing doesn't exist in the ear. That's the house for the sense, but it exists in consciousness. You can hear your good friend saying your name right now, absolutely, inside. We use the mantra inside silently.
Oh.
And it's at that quiet level of consciousness that it draws the mind down into subtler and subtler layers of experience until we actually step beyond, we transcend thought into a state of pure being. No mantra, no thought, just pure awareness. And it's at that state that that we see the most coherent brain signature, we see the body in its most restful state. And it's the moment that people search for. How do I get to that place? And we would say two things. Well, first, you can't force yourself to that place. It is the power of the mantra, a mantra chosen and personalized for the meditator by the teacher in a very particular way that draws the mind naturally. And it's also important that this is not mantra meditation practice. This is not, repeat, repeat, repeat. This is step beyond your mantra meditation. And we might step beyond into this state of pure being. We might step beyond the mantra into some subtle layers of thought. And both of those things are very important. I think so many people think meditation is about learning how to not think. And although that is a potential outcome of meditation, it's not a goal. It's not something we're trying to engineer. It is something that will spontaneously occur in correct practice if that's appropriate in the moment.
Okay, so at no point is the mantra chanted aloud.
Correct.
Okay, I misunderstood that. Okay, yes. Silently. Okay, wonderful. And as you said, you get to a deeper level with this silent meditation. So if I was to enter one of your meditation centers, how would I start? What's the process of me receiving my own individualized mantra, correct?
All training in Vedic meditation must happen molecule to molecule. So we only teach in person. So there's no tuition that will happen online. We need to be in the room with you. This knowledge comes from the Veda, and the Veda is ancient, 5,000 to 10,000 years old. We don't know exactly, but there's a long lineage, an unbroken tradition of teachers who have held this knowledge of stepping beyond thought intact. And so it is a tradition for us as teachers, as members of that lineage, to acknowledge the teachers who have come before. So the first session of the course, and the course happens over 4 days, and it's about 2 hours each day, 4 consecutive days. On the first day, you witness a ceremony, a short ceremony performed by the teacher. This is not a religion. It is not something that you have to sign up for some belief system. This is a moment of gratitude, a moment of acknowledgement of the teachers who have held this knowledge intact. And so then after witnessing that, then you are instructed in your mantra. And that bit always happens privately, one-on-one. You learn your mantra and you're given some instructions about how to use it. And then, we take you through the fundamentals of how to meditate in that very first session. And the immediacy of this cannot be underestimated, because in that first session, you are meditating. You've got it. You're doing it. There's no novice expert hierarchy. I have to do this for 6 months before I've nailed it. You are meditating in that first session. And then what we do is we build on that, and we build your intellectual understanding of how this works over those subsequent 3 days. So the thing that I think is really important to emphasize here, and it is something that was a big motivator in writing my book and in the work that we do, is to ensure that people understand the ease of this. This technique is natural. This technique, therefore, is easy. When something is in alignment with nature, there is that frictionless flow. And unlike many things that people are doing that requires hard work or requires some concentration, or I have to really apply myself, I have to try not to think about other stuff and only think about this stuff, or I have to think about the kind of thoughts I'm having, or I try not to think, or it's just a lot of trying. And when they sit down in the chair and they learn their mantra, the mantra takes over. The mantra does the job for you. It draws the mind in effortlessly. So as a meditator, I don't have to do anything for 20 minutes. And boy, that's a blessed relief, because I spend the rest of my day doing stuff and thinking about stuff and making stuff happen. And that's a counterbalance that's so important for our health. You know, we are not human thinkings. We are not human doings. We are human beings. And Vedic meditation delivers an experience of being, which is your baseline. And that is easy and natural and effortless. And then I come out and I integrate that into my thinking and action in my day. So the ease of this is really important to emphasize.
Yes. And also, I think there's a certain re-education that needs to happen with us in the West, because a lot of times we have this thought process that in order for something to be effective, it has to be hard. I don't know where this comes from, but we want things to be challenging. You know, if we're going to exercise, we're going to exercise as hard as we can. And now we're learning that, you know, going all out full force like that and really striving too hard is not beneficial. So it's wonderful to hear about the ease of this practice. And as you said, the alignment with nature, and it's effortless. It should be effortless and so on. And there's no doing. It's just being. It's twice a day, right? Morning and evening, 20 minutes. And is there certain times of day that are best?
There's a bit of a strategy that we recommend to meditate first thing when you get up. Most people are more in control of their environment if they get up early. And you don't want the day to get rolling and for your morning meditation to get lost in emails and meetings and phone calls. So people tend to get up and brush their teeth and wash their face. Maybe they jump through the shower first thing and then meditate. And then it's done and sorted and out of the way. And then our preference is to meditate before dinner. And the reason for that is that we want to take the benefits of meditation into the world. You know, we often say we're not meditating to be good meditators. We're meditating to be good at life. And being good at life probably means having your eyes open and interacting with people. And so many people will say, oh, you know, so do I meditate right before bed? And we don't recommend that, because you want to get the benefits of meditation before dinner and then take them into your evening and into your personal and your social and your family life. What do you have? More clarity of thinking, more creativity, more patience, more energy. You want to engage at those levels and share that with other people. And then you get a little horizontal rest and start again the next day.
Yes, and that's great. And I love that idea of before dinner, because I often talk to people in consultations about a transition. When you've come home from work and maybe you've taken the subway or you've been in rush hour traffic and your energy is all hyped up, that it's really nice to have a transition in your day, you know, taking off the work clothes and having a moment of calm before you going in to prepare dinner or be with family or friends and so on, because you're bringing that energy, right? That rush hour energy then into your cooking and into your evening. So I love that as a transition point.
And we have an amazing number of students who meditate even on their commute. You know, in London, in New York, when they're on the train.
That's great.
Well, instead of sort of scrolling through other people's apparently fabulous lives, they set that device aside for a moment and they close their eyes. You can meditate beautifully in a busy environment. You know, as long as you can be seated and you feel safe enough, then it's absolutely a great place to meditate. And instead of dreading their commute, these people look forward to their meditation time.
That's wonderful.
I'm thinking of one guy who literally goes the long way home on the London Underground so that he can sit and do his meditation before he gets home.
That's great.
That important, you know, because, you know, that's one of the acid tests of this is, well, I do this and I feel different, you know, and if I don't do it, I also notice that, you know, so yeah. I think that portability of it is so important because we're all busy.
Exactly.
And, you know, like you say, we want to have these kind of moments of pause, these moments of balance to recalibrate and go into the next phase, and to find those. And 20 minutes isn't that long. We can easily scroll our way through 20 minutes of something and that's gone. So yeah, really very, very good for busy people.
Yeah, it's great. And it's great to hear that there's that flexibility. And also I appreciate that day one, you're meditating, you're doing it, and then it's just about bringing that practice into your life. And you mentioned there, we're meditating to be good at life. And with Ayurveda, the really overarching journey is a journey of self-realization or self-discovery. So how can meditation, particularly Vedic meditation, help us in that journey of self-discovery?
I think it's really interestingly tied to Ayurveda. One of the first things that people begin to notice when they're meditating is a desire to shift the way they're interacting with the world at the level of their diet, or at the level of their exercise, or their daily routine. And so it's a very big part of our personal journey working with our Ayurvedic doctors in India, and bringing the state of consciousness that meditation develops in alignment with how you are eating and exercising and going through your routine. Because you don't want to be doing the work of meditating, even though it's easy and it's enjoyable. Still, it is time that you're putting in. And if you're undermining that by consuming, old uncooked food and throwing the system out of balance, then you're not supporting it the way that you could. And so people often come to us and say, what else should I be doing? And diet is so much a part of that. You do a lot of work with people on that.
And I think the big thing that I would say in addition to this is that, there's that saying in Ayurveda, don't say no as in N-O, say no as in K-N-O-W. No, have that self-referral knowledge of what feels right. What feels right for me today on this very hot day to eat is going to be very different in January when it's really cold outside and blowing a gale. And so that capacity to know oneself and to know what's right for you in that moment is going to be stronger and more reliable the less stressed and tired you are. There's nothing that being more stressed and more tired is going to do that's helpful in any of that. And so, rather than, when people come along and learn to meditate with us, it's not like we throw a rule book at them and say, right, you're going to have more broccoli and you've got to, eat more, have more ghee in your diet, and you've got to do, but it's none of that. It's a sense of, well, what we want is to wake up your capacity to know what's right for you in that moment. And so, I was doing an interview recently and someone said, what is the biggest thing that you have got from learning to meditate? And I said, I think it's that ability to trust myself, to know, this feels right. And I think, again, to what you were saying earlier about all of these kind of the hypnosis of social conditioning that, oh yeah, success is commensurate with effort and you got to really put the hours in and try. There's also, this thing that, you've got to follow a certain prescriptive way of doing things, or, but actually what we really want is we want to know ourselves and we want to be able to trust ourselves rather than outsourcing that to others. And that capacity to do that goes up when you are more grounded and you have that connection with that baseline of who you are, that foundation. And I think that then impacts every choice that you make, whether it's what you have for lunch or where you work or what time you go to bed or anything is on the table.
Absolutely. Yes. Your words are music to my ears, because that's what it's all about, empowering people to take charge of their own healthcare and just feeling confident to make their own decisions. And really, I guess it's creating awareness. And also, I think in our world today, we need to create some space, because there's very few opportunities where we are still. And nowadays with our devices, we don't allow ourselves boredom, and we don't allow ourselves that space for awareness and creativity and just awareness of what we're feeling, because we're always so occupied, right?
Yeah, always switched on.
Always
on, and then hopefully we conk out at night, and
Yeah.
then we switch back on again. And so everybody's exhausted and everybody's frazzled and everybody's like, I just taught a course last week, and one girl, she came out of the first meditation, she said, I cannot remember the last time I sat still for 20 minutes with my eyes closed in a chair and I didn't look at a screen. I wasn't eating, I wasn't talking, I wasn't doing it. Like, when does that ever happen?
Yeah.
It was that in itself was a breakthrough.
Mm.
Let alone the fact that she de-excited her nervous system 5 times deeper than sleep, which is what she just did. And change the biochemistry of her body. But the fact that she was able to stop and push pause and be able to sustain that and enjoy it, that was revolutionary.
Right. And the realization that, wait, no, I haven't done this. When have I ever done that? That we don't even realize what level of underlying stress there is and nervous system activation there is, because it's our norm in the world, right? But it's only when we stop these moments to meditate and have moments of mindfulness that we hear that inner hum, and we understand that we need to calm that down. And so, like me, I'm sure you've heard the excuses. I have a monkey mind. I can't sit still. Da, 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 da. So we've heard them all, right? So what would you say to the beginner meditator? And I think some people are nervous about sitting in quiet with themselves in their mind. Do you find that?
Yes. I think sometimes activity is about covering up. We talk about people don't know how to pause or don't take the time to do that. But I think there are many people who really don't want to, because they're trying to push away what they know to be things that ought to have been dealt with, or things that they're ignoring. And if I just keep go, I don't have to look at that stuff. And when you have a technique, it's quite different. I think so many people's fear is that I can't do it. And what we say is, it's not that you can't do it. It is natural for the mind to move into a restful state. It's not that, people will say, oh, I tried that focus, that concentration style meditation. I was staring at the candle flame and I was thinking, don't think. And then I thought, oh no, don't think. And oh, it got so frustrating. And am I undiagnosed ADD? No. You're trying to do something with the mind that it's not designed to do. You can't use a thought, don't think, to stop all the other thoughts. You're in a catch-22 from the very beginning. You need to offer the mind what it wants. The mind is looking for what's more interesting, looking for greater charm. The mind is looking for happiness. And when you receive your mantra, the mantra holds the promise of happiness, and it's nectar to the mind. The mind moves toward it so easily. It's like a bee toward the flower. And then the mantra gets more quiet, more subtle, and more fine, and then it disappears, and you discover yourself dropped into this least excited state of consciousness. So, for myself, having tried other things for so many years and having always felt like a bad meditator, I have a lot of compassion for people who come in and say that, because I felt it. I can't do this. I don't know how. Maybe there's something wrong with me and I really can't. And it is learning it properly. And, there is learning from a trained teacher that is different. I can read the books on Ayurveda, and it's not the same as sitting with you and tapping into your knowledge. I'm going to move forward in a whole different way. Someone can attempt to meditate on their own. That's hard work, and it doesn't have to be done. There's thousands of years of knowledge waiting to be passed on to make the journey smooth.
And we certainly need this now more than ever. I love how you say that mantra holds the promise of happiness. It's the nectar to the mind. That's beautiful. Beautiful. As we finish up here, Jillian and Michael, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
Well, I want to pitch Jillian's book again.
Yes.
Why meditate? Because it works. And the reason being, it's very interesting. You wrote this prior to the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, in order to join a course, we asked that first someone comes along to an introductory talk and really hears the details about what's involved in learning and what the potentials are. And we were doing those talks live in London and in New York. And, we would have 20, 30 people a week coming along, really, really very, very interested. But we knew there were a lot of people out there who couldn't, get themselves to West London or get themselves to the Garment District in New York. And so you wrote the book really for those people.
Yeah, absolutely. To try and get that message out to more people. So I think that's a starting point for people that are interested and have curiosity around this and who might have tried other stuff. I think that it's great that today, compared to when I learned this knowledge, there are many more things on offer. There's all sorts of stuff out there called meditation. I think the flip side of that is that it brings a lot of potential for confusion or dilution of knowledge, a little bit of, something that might be kind of touted as meditation that might not actually meet the bar. And so really part of what, we've been wanting to do is address this issue. Not all meditations are the same, and go back to the fundamentals of what does it mean to de-excite the mind and the body, and how has this knowledge played out over time, over thousands and thousands of years, and make that accessible, make it, so it's not dense, it's not a heavy read, just make it interesting so that people in this modern world can feel inspired to investigate further. Because I think one of the things that I see is that people have tried different stuff, and then when it doesn't work, they take that on themselves and think, well, it's me. And we would always say, no, if you can think, you can practice this technique of meditation. You just need to know how to do it correctly. You need to have the right instruction and the right conditions. So it's easy when you know how, and anyone can do it. So that's really was a big motivation around that. And I think your podcast is also a really great way for people Michael has a podcast speaking of meditation, go and listen to people who are doing this and have been doing it for many years, and why do they do it, and how did you get to learn this, and all people from all sorts of different areas and walks of life. I think it's always fascinating that the power of the story is so important.
Oh, absolutely. Hearing the stories, like we started with your own story, it's nice to weave that in. And Michael, what's the name of your podcast?
It's called Speaking of Meditation, and it's really fascinating conversations with super interesting people, and really from all walks of life. And I think it's nice because, as you read the descriptions, you think, oh, this sounds like a person sort of like me. And you listen to their story and you're like, oh, I see how they got into it and what they're experiencing. It's a little window into the potentials for yourself. Then you read someone else's story and you think, this person is nothing like me, but I'm interested enough. And it turns out there are commonalities and threads of connection. And it's really a lovely thing. I'm not the expert podcaster that you are. I feel a little.
I'm not an expert podcaster.
You are.
I'm just sharing, as we all are, this ancient Vedic wisdom. Jillian, you were just talking there about there's many methods available, but this ancient Vedic wisdom has stood the test of time. We're all passionate about it, and we all know it works, and that's why we're here just sharing it, right? We want other people to feel the benefit of this. And the beautiful thing is it's logical, it's connected to nature. There's no religion, it's flexible, it's tailored to each person, and it's really about empowering everybody to feel confident to take charge of their own health and well-being. And I think that's where we're all on this mission with this Vedic wisdom.
I think we're all going to have to put ourselves in the same room and be molecule to molecule at some point, because we're so in alignment in so many ways.
I would love to. I think that would be great. I'm definitely very interested in learning more about the Vedic meditation practice that you teach. And I'd love to know more offerings. Tell us about your centers in New York and London, and what other offerings you have.
You can go to londonmeditationcenter.com and also newyorkmeditationcenter.com. By the way, that's the English center RE and the American center ER.
I saw you did that when I was looking at the bio. Yeah,
Yes.
That gets confusing. I'll make sure I link it in the show notes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that is an opportunity to learn a little bit more about us and the technique, but most of all to join in. Now we do these introductory talks online, and we spend an hour with people online, really answering the questions and making sure that the questions and even the doubts that people have, we encourage people to ask sharp questions, because there is so much out there and there's so much misunderstanding, and to really address that full on so that people can make an informed decision about, is this the technique for me, and is this the moment for me to learn? I just you just taught someone who first came to an introductory talk 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And just finally decided it was time to learn to meditate.
Yeah. And they're looping back now, 20 years later.
She's ready. So there we go. And I think it's, once you've done that intro talk, it puts you into the position to then make that decision, because learning to meditate is, it's the beginning of a journey, and, then you can jump in. We have courses that we're offering on a very regular basis, both in London and New York. And then you do that 4-day course, and it's really concentrated, it's 4 days in a row, 2 hours each day. And then you've got this tool for life. And then, we're with you on that journey. So there are lots of other things that happen after that. You can come away on retreat with us. We're off to Rishikesh in October. In India, you can do all sorts of things. But the core of all of this is learn to meditate, have this daily practice and learn how to settle the nervous system down and get that balance, and then come out and get on with your life and take all those benefits out and share it, because meditation is good for you. And the other thing that we should say is everybody else benefits from you meditating. This is something that we can't do in isolation. It has a spreading effect, and we need more of that in the world right now. So there's a generosity around this practice. Yes, it's good for you, and everybody else benefits as well.
Absolutely. And that's what we want, that ripple effect going out into the world. We need it now more than ever, as you just said. Jillian and Michael, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you both. And thank you for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
So wonderful, Colette. Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. I wish you both all the best. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Jillian and Michael, and please check out the show notes for all the links mentioned in this episode. And if you haven't already subscribed or followed the podcast, please do so, and the new weekly episodes will automatically download for you. And if you want to check out my online services, then please visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, or just click on the link in the show notes. And I want to let you know that I do have my next discounted group cleanse coming up October 4th, 2024. So check that link out for that group discounted cleanse. That's tailored to you because it comes with a 90-minute consultation. Please come find me on social media. My new Instagram page is Elements of Ayurveda Podcast. And on Facebook, you'll find me under Elements Healing and Wellbeing. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take good care of yourself. Be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.